I'm going to be doing a presentation of my advocacy plan about gender equality. This is for my LME 448 class. I've created an advocacy plan for gender equality around the globe. I have two main targets that I will relate to throughout this presentation in all of the sections. The first one being Target 5.3, eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early, and forced marriage and genital mutilation. The second one being Target 5.6, ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive rights as agreed in accordance with the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development with the Beijing Platform for Action and the outcome documents of their review conferences. Both of these are very important factors that would improve gender equality all over the world. A lot of my research has related many things back to these two targets, due to the fact that it would severely improve the quality of life for these people. Before we start, my name is Cadence Barnett, and I have added a picture of myself to the left. I am passionate about gender equality because of many reasons, but the main one is wanting everyone to be equal. I have personally experienced misogyny and I've witnessed people go through it, and I want to stop it. I'm going to be an educator, and I want to make sure that the children I am teaching are able to experience a world where everyone gets the same opportunities from the start. Advocating is the first step to making a change. Our first part of the advocacy plan was to explore. I had to explore around and find which global problems stuck out to me, and I found 4 main points that made me realize that I wanted gender equality to be my global goal. The first one is many women and girls don't have equal access to education, and I found that in my research multiple times. The second one is the gender wage gap and economic inequality. Women don't make as much money as a man for doing the same job. Another one is gender-based violence and harassment. Women and girls are continuously targeted based on their gender. The fourth thing I found was the lack of reproductive rights and resources. We broke our advocacy plan into 3 different views: global, national, and local. This makes it easier to see how gender equality is viewed in different regions and areas. First, I looked at global issues. This is from a worldwide view of gender equality. Poverty is a main issue. In developing countries, there is not enough resources for everyone to have an education, so that is usually decided is that boys are the first to get an education and girls are second. There is a lack of resources for women around the world, and in many countries, there are barriers that deny women their basic human rights, like healthcare. There is a lack of representation for these women, and many rights are decided for them. They have no say in their own lives. In various cultures, genital mutilation and child marriage is commonly practiced. Girls are sometimes married off as young as 10 years old and are expected to do their wifely duties. Next, I looked at national issues. There is a persistent wage gap across most businesses and industries based on gender. Women make 81 cents compared to $1 earned by a man in the U.S. There is also underrepresentation of women in politics and leadership, which limits their influences in decision making. Lack of support for parental leave and family care policies as well. Since women are looked at as the main source of childcare and there is a lack of affordable childcare, this forces many people to leave work and accept lower paying jobs. Looking at local problems, they tend to be similar with national issues. Women are given less opportunities for career advancement and business ownership. There is a lack of leadership opportunities and pathways for women, which makes it harder to thrive in a male-dominated fields like STEM. There is also a common occurrence of stereotyping and opinions that leads to influences on education and career choices, as well as the lack of resources for victims of domestic violence and sexual harassment, which is often influenced by stereotypes and opinions, leading to victims not being believed. Therefore, this shows that there is a continuous problem of gender inequality, and it isn't just happening overseas. After doing this exploring, I saw that my 2 main targets were common issues all over the world. I found that focusing on these two targets would greatly influence the lives of women and children that are affected by the lack of healthcare and harmful practices. After exploring and figuring out what my global goal consisted of, I started to understand what gender equality needed and where we should start. This led me to my interpret section. One of the main things I figured out was that we needed to educate and tackle the stereotypes that come with the inequality. Through some research, I found that many opinions and ideas that people have are due to a disconnect between those who have experienced gender inequality and those who haven't. The people who have seen it firsthand know that there is a real issue that needs to be dealt with. However, the people who haven't experienced it seem to think that this isn't a necessary issue to discuss and that it isn't as common as we think. The next thing I found is similar to the other information on the last slide. I found that a person's belief of gender inequality is sometimes based on where they get their information and how correct it is. Some people get their information from biased sources, which leads them to receiving inaccurate information. I added this video from the channel Participate. This video simplifies gender equality and shows the differences women and men have in society. I'm just going to show a clip of it that helped me personally understand gender equality more.
Gender equality should be a fundamental right, but girls and women are not treated equally in countries all around the world for all sorts of reasons. Society plays a big part in how gender roles are assigned. The values, core beliefs, and inherited customs that govern how people behave can be discriminatory and limit how women live their lives. In some countries, laws prevent women from owning property or receiving an inheritance from a family member. In many cultures, child marriages is still acceptable, with some girls as young as 8 promised to men twice, 3, or 4 times their age. This leaves the girl open to abuse, neglect, and complications during childbirth. Even in places where men and women technically have equal rights, there still may be a gender gap in pay, leadership, and representation in government. Great people continue to make progress worldwide, exposing systemic abuse toward women in the film and television industries with powerful social media campaigns, investing in female entrepreneurs to reduce the current funding gap between women and men, providing women and girls with equal access to education, healthcare, and decent work. And the number of women leaders has doubled since 2000, so that their say in political and economic decision-making processes can fuel sustainable economies and benefit societies and humanity at large.
In this interpret section, I created a Google form asking people in my community their thoughts and knowledge about gender equality. It is too long for me to show the entire thing, but I'm going to show some main points that I found. The results that I found tie into the lack of education and experience in gender inequality. They showed that people could agree that it was important, but what separated them was whether it still existed today. I found that men were more likely to say that there isn't a problem with gender equality and that women do get treated the same as men. The same people that said that also said that they had a good understanding of gender equality. Women were more likely to speak about their own experiences of discrimination in work, school, and everyday interactions. Some people said that they still felt confident in their knowledge about gender equality, but then said that there was no problem in the world. This suggests that understanding isn't shaped by their knowledge, but more by their opinions and views. After exploring and interpreting my results, I started to brainstorm to see what we could do to help. I found this quote by Ban Ki-moon that says, "Achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, girls and boys. It is everyone's responsibility." It affects everyone, and we need everyone to try and do better to finally achieve full equality. Solutions for ending gender inequality would include ensuring women and men receive the same pay for doing the same job, providing equitable parental leave support, expanding opportunities for women and girls in education and leadership, strengthen laws regarding gender-based violence, and spread awareness and correct information. This is my digital poster that I created to help share what could be done to achieve gender equality. Just raising your voice does wonders for advocating for anything. A little goes a long way. I split it into 6 sections: equal pay, ending sex-based crimes, access to education, parental leave policies, leadership opportunities, and equal access to health services. We need to make living equal for everyone. Our last section was to propose a way to take action. We created a small PSA to help get information out. An important part about advocating is making sure that you are giving correct information and statistics and educating people on why it is important to achieve gender equality. What I wanted to do with the PSA was to show viewers the consequences caused by gender inequality and to show that change is possible. I wanted to show that not everyone has the same life that you do. By showing harsh realities like child marriage and genital mutilation, it inspires people to have empathy and want to make a change. I did this to show viewers that they are able to use their own voices to make a difference in people's lives. I added this link to my gender equality PSA. Gender inequality is a global issue, and advocating would help achieve equality. Advocating is using our voices to spread awareness and information and knowing our rights and what we deserve as human beings. Thank you.